But then with that, I suppose, with all that said and done, that little wrap-up, we will move on to previewing the one game that we have this weekend, which happens to be Ireland and Italy. Yeah, exciting times to see us back in action. Yeah, delighted to see it. It'll be on Saturday, October 24th. That's this Saturday. 3:30 kick-off at the Aviva Stadium, and the referee is going to be Matthew Carley. Matt Carley getting a big Six Nations.
Matt Carley got a load of stick for his performance. This is way back now. He was in the Six Nations and he had a couple of performances where he was getting a load of stick, including that Scotland game. Mm-hmm. I think he's okay without being great. Hopefully he's not going to be
sometimes
too much
concerns
of
on
a
communication
factor.
again. He's grand speaker. I just wish he would tell people no before blowing the whistle. That's my main bugbear of any ref. Sometimes Carly's guilty of not doing it. It was a great, actually, Angus Gardner last week was a great example of how to do it right. At every breakdown, vocal, communicate, tell them yes, no, maybe so, or before you don't just blow the whistle and have all the breakdown, both sides of players look up at you and go, what?
Indeed. I couldn't agree more. That's obviously a massive factor.
But then just to wrap up the scenario, we did outline it before. Ireland need a bonus point win from this game, and they need a bonus point win from the game after it as well.
So they absolutely positively need a win and 4 tries here if they're to be in the mix come Super Saturday.
Don't believe any of the interviews where you hear people talk about we need to win the game first. And
frankly, I never get more passionate and more annoyed than when I'm talking about Ireland. But frankly, we shouldn't be hearing that from Irish players. Yeah. You shouldn't be hearing someone say, no, first we have to focus on the wing. No, you don't. You need 4 tries. Win is no good to you. Yeah. Win is no good to you. Yeah. So you want to win the Six Nations, you got to get 4 tries and a win. That's the task in front of you, and you should be honest about it.
And take the corner from the first minute.
I'll be fuming if I see them taking 3-pointers next week against France and Paris as well. No, you understand the situation. You need a bonus point win. Yeah. You need to score tries, and it's actually from an Ireland point of view, it's a great test for them. This has been a team that has been abject with the ball at times and really, really slow and ponderous to do anything, and more than happy to take forever to score or take 3-pointers or to win a game 16-3 that they should have won by a lot more when they're dominating a game. So it's a great little task. Like if I was to line out a little 2-game task for Andy Farrell's team, it would read something like this. Go get 4 tries in 2 games in a row against decent teams. Obviously Italy have been a little behind, and we haven't talked about Italy yet, but they've actually yet to register a point in this competition.
Yeah. So as far as warming to the task, it's an Italy game. It's a home game against Italy. 4 tries should be expected.
They've yet to register a point at the on the table. They've also been nilled twice.
Yeah,
they lost 42-0 to Wales and a home 17-0 defeat to Scotland in Rome.
That's probably the low light of the whole campaign for them. But that's poor.
Then the other game where they actually did manage to score points, they scored a try with I'm not sure if you remember this, but you remember when I remind you, they scored a try with a couple of minutes to go in the game, or frankly a couple of seconds. Which was their 3rd try, and made it about 35-22 to France.
Right.
And then they ran back, drop kicked the conversion really, really quickly, and so they were in a scenario where a try could get them 2 log points, and then French kicked the restart deep as you would, and they kicked it straight out.
Baffling displays of ridiculousness, yes, and they deserve their nil point for that kind of carry-on.
Both sides, I think it's fair to say, huge work-ons going into this, and we'll take a look at the games from the perspective of each.
Yes, indeed.
Starting with Ireland, who is the one squad that we actually have for this game. It was announced this afternoon. Italy are keeping their cards close to the chest for the time being. 6 changes.
Yes, indeed. Some good, some bad. My first reaction to this team was a bit of disappointment in terms of some of the options they've gone with. The main one is Conor Murray. Can't understand. He's just there on reputation because his form is in shock. He's in shocking form.
And to flip it the other way, from the negative to the positive, it's the main negative is Kieran Marmion for me.
Yeah.
Because I think Marmion for Connacht has been sensational.
Yeah, he's the best halfback
he's a guy
in the country.
who's proven at test level. It's not a one-to-one comparison with the John Cooley Ulster thing. He's a guy who's proven...
Or Gibson Park.
Yeah,
he's on the bench.
He's proven at test level, and he's left out of the squad. And now it's can you throw him into the French game is going to be the dynamic.
Yeah.
Especially if these boys look okay against Italy, which it can be hard not to.
Yes.
So from that point of view, I think that's, in terms of Ireland generating a tempo for themselves, that's a bit of a deflating one. It is good to see Sexton back, and then there's a curiosity. There's a curiosity with 2 selections. So first of all, in the back row, they've gone with
one of the bigger disappointments.
Well, they've gone with Will Connors at 7, which I thought was very interesting. Yeah. He's a Josh van der Fleer-esque player, probably without not being quite as good as Josh, but he's a guy who makes his game is about defence. He gets out of the line brilliantly. He makes chop tackles. He stops teams at source. He's actually a decent counter weapon to what Italy are going to bring with their Bram Staines around the fringes and their Negris.
Shoot up and create a good line speed on defence. And normally stick good solid low tackles. Yeah, so
tackles. Happy to see Will get his first cap, and obviously that's a nice bold call. I like to see it. And then the other two options are this is what baffles me. I mean, it's Caelan Daragh at 6 and CJ Stander at 8. And Caelan Daragh is an out and out footballer. He's a number 8. He's not a number 6. He probably doesn't have the heft to play number 6. He plays at a club level, but at test level he's a number 8. He needs to be out at the base of the scrum, making plays. And then meanwhile at number 8 we have CJ Stander, who just couldn't be less of a number 8 and couldn't be more of a number 6.
It's true. That's what's been baffling me for years about the Irish team. I thought it was consistently a wrong call under Joe Schmidt. I think it remains the wrong call now. I think, like, ideally if you're putting together a perfect rugby team, and probably in 10 years this will be true, but like all of your players from 1 to 50, actually from 1 to 23, are able to throw a left-handed skip pass on the run at full tilt and stick their man. That needs to be a factor. Like it doesn't at the moment. That doesn't quite need to be the case. But one thing that is 100% true, has been true for the last 10 years, is that the number 8 is not a ball-carrying role exclusively. It's a playmaker. The number 8 needs to be a link man, needs to be a distributor. Like he needs to have a pass. So he needs to have an accurate 15 to 20 yard spin pass off either hand. And it's like, it's easy to look at Billy Vunipola and Dwayne Vermeulen and make the mistake of thinking these guys are the best number 8s in the world and they're just big ball carriers. But they're not. They're distributing carriers. They suck in the men with their heft, but then put other guys in space. It's been a bugbear of mine with CJ for a while. He's a hefty guy. He is a good number 6. He's rock solid. But he's not a distributor, and it's been an issue for Munster, even if they haven't cited it, haven't noticed it. It contributes. Even if he has a good game, he makes a lot of carries, leads defensive line. It's a little factor. But couple that with the fact that Conor Murray's in there, it's just going to all add up to not quite distributing the way you want to, and looking a little sluggish with the ball.
That 8-9 axis lacks a bit of speed, and there's no question about that. And I think that CJ is definitely good value for being in the starting team. I think he's going to be going forward, but I think he is a number 6. I definitely agree with you on that. And likewise, the exact same scenario has arrived in the back 3, where they've put Stockdale from wing to fullback, and then put an uncapped debutant on the wing. And I get what they're doing. Hugo Keenan, by the way, is the lad's name, but he's playing left wing. First of all, he's a natural right wing. No, he's not. He's a natural fullback. That's what he's only ever slotted in to play right wing. And now, I guess the idea is, we have these guys on debut, so let's just not put them in the high profile positions like fullback and number 8. Let's hide them a little. Which, first of all, I think it's a mixed message to send to the guy. Like, it's like, we trust you, but we don't really trust you. And then the other thing is, like, you're playing him out of position. Like, Hugo Keenan's not a left winger. He probably doesn't have the out and out pace to play left wing. He's been nothing but solid in terms of club rugby at 15. He's out here playing.
He's actually, as well, they picked Larmour at fullback the week prior and him on the wing, and then the week after they actually switched those two because Keenan gets into the game more from 15.
That's right. Leinster did that, exactly. And it's because he's a natural 15. He's not a winger at all. And so he's not really going to be given the chance to deliver on what he brings to the game. So that's just a frustration for me. And likewise with Daragh, who's a natural number 8 and a brilliant footballer, as you say.
It is, as you say. It's the young lad not being trusted. It's the notion that we'll better play it safe by putting CJ at 8 and giving him that responsibility. But it's kind of backwards. It's really not a good call.
No, so those are the ones I don't like. There's quite a bit I do like in this squad. Obviously there's injury issues throughout the team. There's Andrew Porter has just made it, so is Johnny Sexton, but there's no Ryan Baird, who was brilliant and lock and was definitely be on track to be fast tracked right into the test team by the end of this autumn, and it's a shame to see him out injured. Massive shame, in fact. One of my favourite Leinster players of the year.
Henderson has found himself out not through injury but through suspension due to a red card he picked up a couple of weeks back, so he's unavailable, and that paves the way for Tyg Byrne, who was it's good. It'll be good to see Tyburn back in a green jersey as well. He's kind of been out of the mix for a wee while. So like with every door closed, there's another one opens, which is nice to see.
The squad in general, like the tight five, quite happy with Cian Healy. 98 caps. He's going to make his 99th appearance. He's going to make the 100 by the end of this autumn, which is fantastic for him. What a servant.
Yeah.
Totally happy with Cian Healy in there. Totally happy with Rob Herring at hooker, incumbent. Definitely worth his jersey. Andrew Porter likewise. Tyburn and James Ryan, no issues. We talked about the back row. We have Murray in at 9, which is, I think, very incorrect.
Yeah.
Sexton in captaining from 10, 91 caps, and also on track to make his 100th this season. What I do like is a little bit of what's outside that. I like Bundy Aki. I mean,
he's the form player in the country.
Panicked a little bit that they might not pick Bundy Aki, but he is absolutely the form footballer in Ireland. Gary Ringrose in there with him is great. He's probably the fourth form.
It's probably 13. Our most creative centre partnership that we can put together at the international level.
No question. Andrew Conway on the right wing is lethal, and Stockdale, whether he's at fullback or left wing, as I think he should be on left wing, he's still absolutely lethal as well. So there's plenty of try scoring out there in that back line. The question mark that lingers from an Ireland point of view is can they get it out there quick enough?
Yeah, or are they just going to kick it in the sky and chase it?
Well, let's hope not against Italy.
We hope not. But the other kind of concerns I have are with the bench. Some of the, like, it's been a problem for us for a wee while. I don't think we use our bench well, and we saw in the World Cup with Razzie Erasmus opting for the 6-2 split because Yankees wasn't quite working, just maximising the impact of those replacements. And we've seen Eddie Jones call them finishers before, like they're important jerseys to contribute. And like the decisions this week, we have Robbie Henshaw to come in, presumably for one of the centres.
Well, they released Shane Daly and Dave Carney back to club footy, so that was I didn't like that.
No,
I would have preferred to see Daly or even Dave Carney on the bench there
for sure. Ross Byrne covering 10. Obviously, that's kind of necessary. I don't think Johnny's going to play the full 80 against Italy.
Wouldn't have minded Jack Carty in there.
Wouldn't have minded Jack Carty as well. Same as the
just a running call. 10. Yeah.
Gibson Park is the most impact I see from the bench, to be honest. I think he has a capacity to change the game, and if we're needing a fourth try or something in the last quarter, he could contribute. But Peter O'Mahony on the bench, what's he going to do coming? Like, he is a guy who starts a game, like at his best, he's a workhorse who's there from minute 1 to minute 80 or something. Like, I don't see him as being a barnstorming off the bench guy.
It is the Italy game, and they're just trying to bet in and get these guys some minutes for the most part. But I think Olsen Delan is a good one to see. He's a guy who's going to make impact. Likewise, Heffernan at hooker. Great to see him get his opportunity. And actually Ed Byrne at loosehead as well has brought nothing but impact for Leinster all season. So I actually think in the tight there is room to make massive impact. But even just moving on from the squad, I think that Ireland in big picture talk have some work-ons. Like, I think the Six Nations performances this year were very, very reminiscent of what we were seeing in 2019, and like the only reason we're in the competition, I think, is because the standard dipped a little below what was happening in 2019 in terms of Wales were just nowhere near at the pitch, and they were giving Ireland soft tries once they did get up to the line, which is just something World Cup Wales would never do, or Grand Slam Wales from last year. And they probably would have beaten Ireland in the way they played. So I just think, it's been slow and sort of sluggish for a couple of years now. The kicking has been predictable. Everything has been stuttery. What creativity they tried to bring is off first phase.
Yeah, we haven't used the full pitch in multi-phase. But it was something I think Squidge Rugby pointed out in Joe Schmidtball and how it works. But it's like, as soon as we get to the 15, we won't go blind. We will just come back the other way. Well, we don't use full width when we attack.
That was one variation they had worked in the Six Nations, is that they did play a little wider.
They did.
But it was all very slow again, and it was all very ponderous, and it was still, when we were winning games, it was still that very old formula of getting on top of teams physically, and then it was found out against England as
you run into a bigger team one of these days. Where, like, unless you're the Springboks, you're going to run into a bigger team.
So in terms of improvements, what we need to see from Ireland is tempo on the ball. We need to see, I think, cutting, like, if you were looking at it from a stats point of view, cutting the ruck speed, the time it takes to have a ruck, in half.
Yes.
That would be a massive... that would be a target. That should be a target for Ireland. Yeah. Because the ruck speed is too slow. Yeah. Everything is too slow.
As you say, it would make the exact same somewhat limited plays just twice as dangerous for being twice as fast. Everything should be done with much more tempo.
Ireland need to get used to playing at that speed as well. Yeah. They can't get to the stage where they're so used to playing slow rugby that quick rugby shocks them.
Yes.
And then they can't cope. They haven't got the hands, or they haven't got themselves in shape in time to operate at that quick speed, because things only get tougher. It's the first year of the World Cup cycle. Things only get tougher from here. Yeah. So they need to work on rounding their offense as well, but mostly just bringing that tempo off the base to be massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see them move it wide. I'd love to see them attack space. I'd love to see Gary Ringrose feature as a second distributor.
Yes.
All of those things. Creativity on multi-phase, strike moves, having a different reset play than a box kick.
Yes, all of that would be a huge benefit and necessary as well. You need to vary all of that. Vary exit plays, vary attacking sets. All of those things should be variation, but as well, just hunt those tries. Don't make any bones about it. Hunt those tries. You're going to try and hammer Italy this week, and tee yourself up nicely to go and take on a big challenge in France and try and get a title. Try and get some silverware.
Yeah,
that's got to be the goal.
Absolutely. Moving on to Italy, from their point of view, obviously we talked at the top of the segment just about how abject they looked in that Six Nations first time under Franco Smith.
Yeah.
He has sort of responded to it in terms of he called up 11 players aged 23 or younger for their training camp in September.
Yeah.
They are going to be without Matteo Minozzi this week because he's playing in the Premiership final.
Yeah.
Odd times and all of that. It's not one I necessarily object to as much as I sometimes do. I do think Test rugby prioritised over club rugby is a good thing, but when he's in a final and this is a game, this is a dead rubber game.
Yeah,
I understand.
For sure. Yeah.
But Hooker Luca Beachy's their captain, and in terms of players to look out for, there's quite a few back rowers. Obviously Bram Stain, there's a world class player in Bram Stain, and he hasn't been far from finding it.
Yes, he's close. He certainly looks every inch that world class player when he plays in Benetton colours. He's their best man.
He's a brilliant line out jackler, super physical, can get on top of players, can get on top of attacks and defences. Very physical both sides of the ball. Seems to have a very good engine to him. Rarely gets taken off. Spends a whole 80 minutes making plays.
Yeah,
real big fan of Bram Stain, and likewise in the back row.
Negri,
I mean, they have Negri and Pelledri and even Mbanda in there.
All good back rowers.
Very, very
legitimate though. Those are top internationals really that they have. 100%. They are found wanting in some other areas, but in the back row they are really sharp. And then there's a question mark over the 10 shirt as well, because we have 3 contenders. Haven't seen Tommy Allen this season.
He's in the squad.
But we haven't seen him on the field at all since lockdown. We have seen Carlo Canna at Zebra, and he's been in there
looking his usual self,
kicking away a little bit too much ball sometimes.
He was playing at 12 for Italy.
He was in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
So and he was doing surprisingly well with the physicality of that role, considering how
you're the only one who's surprised. I've always been a big believer in Carlo.
Yeah,
Canna.
I know. But the other option is Garbisi, who's he's been wearing the 10 shirt for Benetton and looking good in it. For sure, he's a guy that they'll be excited to get in there as well. It means no more McGinn. What is his name? The former Irish player who had been in there.
McKinley.
McKinley had been the third choice guy in there. Garbisi, good to see him in because
McKinley got his chance and never took it.
Yeah, it's true. Whereas Garbisi now could be due for his chance. We may see him.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a dilemma. I didn't mind seeing the dual distributor thing in there from Italy. Yeah. So certainly it's something to watch. But in terms of if you're looking at where Italy need to improve from a macro picture point of view, it is still, as it is often with tier 2 sides, and I do refer to them as a tier 2 side.
Yes.
It's defending. It's coping with offenses that are bringing both that combination of speed, physicality, and shape.
Yeah.
That so few tier 2 sides can deal with. And at the moment, the Italian defence often flounders. Their shape, they lose their shape very quickly. They also miss tackles.
That's their main one. They do lose shape, but a lot of the time they don't even have chance. They're in their shape and they just miss the tackle. So the shape is pointless then. If you're just going to miss the front of tackle, it doesn't matter what shape you put on it. You need to make tackles. And for them, their back row get through a lot of work, tend to make most tackles in any game they play in. It tends to be the Italian back rowers who are top of the tackle stats because they're kind of bailing their back line out of some of these games.
They're working ridiculously hard all around the pitch. But absolutely, they need guys in the centre to get out of the line. It's all well and good having a Campagnaro in there who can dance and and score the odd try, but you need to have guys in the 13 shirt, especially if you want to go with dual distributors, who can get out and make tackles and make physical hits.
Yes.
And so they're just lacking a little bit of that physicality. I mean, so far this year, I think we were saying they've registered 3 defeats, 2 goose eggs, and an aggregate score of 94-22.
Jeez, yeah, no, that's no good.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, just tightening up the points conceded would be a massive.
Well, it's got to be a work on, because obviously they're out of the Six Nations, but this Autumn Nations Cup series will be a big one for them.
Yeah,
and
they've
they're
got games against Scotland and Fiji and France. Probably a change trip, France, as we'll talk about.
Yeah,
but,
all of those are things that they should be targeting. So yeah, little improvements that they have to make on that macro scale, and it will come. Like certainly in the Conor O'Shea era, which is now past, we saw them go from a team that literally could not pass the ball from 9 to one side of the pitch without dropping it. Now they can do that, and they have the dual distributor thing. That's good, but it has also revealed just this, like you're saying, first up tackles being missed all over the park. Need to cut those things out, and it's still little increments that they're going to have to work on. And this autumn window is this is kind of a warm up game for them, even though it's a Six Nations game away from home in Ireland. But they got to treat it as such and kind of target. Little targets.
Yeah, well, as I say, the young players in the squad is definitely great. It's great to see. And then the other thing that I wouldn't mind them working in, if they're working in 2 distributors, it's something I'm always going to talk about with tier 2 sides from Fiji to Georgia.
Yes.
Is a smarter kicking game. I mean, I'm very tired of seeing tier 2 sides try and copy the top sides. I mean, you have to be innovative if you're at that level.
Yeah.
And it's there's scope for creative coaching when you're in Italy's position.
Yeah. Well, we saw it with Conor O'Shea's little Rookgate thing a few years ago.
A few years ago in one game and then never again. In terms of that whole O'Shea year. I mean, that was the highlight of it. And again, they lost by 20, but then you never really saw that again. And just something that you get sick of seeing is the box kicks and everything, especially if you've guys who can kick balls in the 10 shirt and the 12 shirt.
And the 15 shirt.
Manipulate the space a little bit and pin your opponent's back and then defend, but pin them back smartly. Do not just bomb the ball in the sky, because teams are ready for that.
Yeah, and the other thing I would always say as well with when a side is as much an underdog as Italy coming to Dublin are, don't kick 3-pointers in the first half, especially because think about it, you're going to be outmatched for fitness. You're going to suffer when the subs come in. The last quarter is not going to be yours. The first quarter might be, though. You might catch a team that are sluggish and a little slow, and if you start with intent, you can kick the corners and grab the tries and try and get yourself in the lead, so that you can then try and cling on to it when you're fading in the second half, as you will. Whereas getting into a game and actually getting yourself up the pitch and earning a penalty and then choosing to kick 3 when you're vastly the inferior side is just never the right call. Yeah. It is the right call when you're in a like Australia kicking 3 against the All Blacks to try and get their scoreboard ticking over. That makes sense. They're in a competitive contest most of the time. This is a game they're losing 9 times out of 10, probably more.
Yeah.
You gotta try and just score as many tries as you can. You have young kids, as you said, in the squad. Go there and try and attack Ireland. We know Ireland can be slow. We were just accusing them of being too slow. They can be sluggish. They can be defensive. Ireland can be guilty of kicking the 3-pointers when they need the 4 tries from the game. So it'd be nice to see Italy buck that trend and kick everything to the corner and try and go at Ireland and do the same next week.
Exactly, and just increase the amount of minutes that Ireland are in the wrong end of the field. And increase their anxiety.
And then they'll get frustrated about it. That's their best chance for success. It's true no matter what the team is. It's not just Italy, although it comes up every year with Italy being in the Six Nations such as they are. But it is just a true thing that it never works out for the tier 2 side who kicks 3 in the first quarter. It just doesn't. They end up losing 90-6.
Yeah. In terms of predictions, how do you see it going?
Not 90-6. Although I would like to see it.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to say Ireland win in similar fashion to how they got the Samoan job done in the World Cup. Maybe a little stuttery, but a 35 to 7.
It's hard to say. I mean, Ireland are bigger and stronger. There are some lethal players in that Ireland team. I think there's capacity, especially with England's recent record in defence, for Ireland to put on something of a show, because even when it's slow, you can picture Bundy Aki getting over the line. You can picture Ringrose and Conway only needing that little bit of space to get in and score and tries.
CJ just scattering an Italian defender and going over simply.
I don't see a problem for Ireland in this game, naturally enough, unless Italy come out and surprise us with make a game of it.
There's two things: Italy coming out and surprising us, or us just being too slow about everything.
Well, I think we probably will be, but I think we'll have
get
too
away
much
with
for
it.
Italy. Yeah, we'll get away with it. You probably might see a first phase move work or something along those lines. But yeah, I can't imagine Italy are going to give us too much of a game. So I would go Ireland. 5 tries, 25 points, job done.
Yeah, that's my hope for the game is obviously that they get that 4 tries. But one little selfish thought of mine as well that I would love to see from Ireland is a kick return score. I would love to see us turn a loose kick into a try.
Jacob Stockdale, Andrew Conway, Hugo Keenan is not a bad.
Yeah, they're a great back three to try it. I can't remember the last time Ireland scored a kick return try off the same phase. It's done all the world over. You can see it done by any kind of team. We just don't tend to score them. I would not like to see 5 tries that are all maul tries. I'd love to see a kick return try. So that's
expanding the game going forward is obviously massive. But job one is to try and stay in the Six Nations, and if they do that, we can't be too picky. Exactly. Obviously, we struggle to maintain our neutrality when Ireland come in, which is why it's almost easier for us when they don't at times.
To review other teams.
So, speaking of,
yes,
we'll move on. Thank you for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, please be sure to like and share with your friends. And if you'd like to hear more of what we have to say, please be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you get notified when we upload our videos. And please join the comment section as well. We like to get a fun conversation going here.